Hello and welcome to this week's Give It to God live call hosted by Alison Larkin. I'm Sarah Hawksworth, Ali's colleague, here to walk you through a bit of housekeeping on how the call will run and what you can expect over the next 90 minutes. Ali's going to open the call in a few moments and she'll speak on today's theme for 50 to 60 minutes, and we'll then open the call for 30 minutes of Q&A. There's two ways you can interact during the Q&A. You can come on the call and speak to Ali directly and vibe one-to-one, which is a preferred option. Or you can submit your question in text form and Ali will answer it. This call is being recorded and will be posted on Ali's YouTube channel in a few days. But if you'd like to talk to Ali directly without your voice or name being posted on YouTube, that's not a problem. We can remove it from the recording. Just please let us know. We ask all communications posted into the Q&A rather than the chat to make sure that we don't miss any of your questions. And then you can post your questions anytime during the call. You don't have to wait until the Q&A section is opened. As I said, the recording will be posted on Ali's YouTube channel, which you can find on YouTube at Alison Larkin. And we recommend having a pen and paper handy so you can take notes during the call as well. Obviously, you'll be able to watch the replay in a couple of days when it's posted. If you are watching the replay and you'd like to join us live on next week's call, you'll find the link to join below. I'll now hand over to Ali for today's call.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Give It to God. Welcome to this week's call. I will start the call as I do every week with a few moments of silence. We'll do 5 to 10 minutes of silence together. I never gauge with a phone or anything else how long I'm going to do it. I just go into the silence, go into the void, and decide through my body when it's time to come back. We sit in silence together. If you're watching this on catch up or if you're new to the call, we spend the first 5 to 10 minutes together every Wednesday sitting in silence. Silence and stillness is where your soul speaks, is where you hear your intuition, is where God communicates with you. It's in the silence and the stillness. Now, that doesn't mean that you will only hear messages through meditation or silence, but what it does mean is if you can calm your body down, if you can calm the thoughts that are racing in your mind 24/7, if you can calm them down for even 5 to 10 minutes once a week, then this is a practice that you can build on and you can do it by yourself on other times throughout the week. Just take 5 to 10 minutes, sit in the garden, sit on the sofa and stare into space or close your eyes and be in silence and just be with your body. Practice doing that. The more you practice doing that, the more you will hear your intuition, which is the voice of God speaking through you. We start with that. We start with 5 to 10 minutes of silence and then a short prayer. Prayer, again, is just whatever way that you want to communicate with God through your thoughts and your words. I grew up Catholic. I say this every week. I grew up Catholic where we learned specific prayers and I would just rabbit them out without ever having any connection to them, without ever having any like in-depth thought about the words that I was saying. I was just taught prayer in the same way I was taught my times tables. So I would just repeat it, like almost like in a trance-like state with a complete disconnect to it. When I began, what I would say is praying properly, I just began talking to the highest energy that I carry within me one day, the energy that we call God. I just began communicating with that inside of me, asking for help, asking for guidance, asking for a way to show me anything that I needed to guide me on any subject that was troubling me or any subject that was making me happy at that time. More of this or more of this if I'm enjoying myself, and what do you need from me if I'm not enjoying myself on the journey. So we'll do silence first, then we'll do a prayer, and then we'll go into this week's theme, which I will tell you all about after the silence. So just close your eyes. Would like you to be somewhere comfortable. If you're driving your car, because I know someone is on my call today because you told me, don't close your eyes. And only close your eyes if you're at home, if you're somewhere safe and warm and comfortable. And let's go into the silence together. And what I want you to do is just be aware of your thoughts as they come and go, and just be the watcher of everything that is flowing through your mind and flowing through your body at this time. Just close your eyes and we'll go into the silence together. Everybody would just like to open their eyes and come back into the room, or you can keep your eyes closed throughout. if that feels more comfortable for you. While we were sitting there in the silence together, I heard the Alanis Morissette song. I don't know if some people on the call might not be old enough to remember Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill album. And there was a line in it, I can't remember the song, the track it was. I think it might have been You Ought to Know, that one. Why are you so petrified of silence? Here, can you handle this? And then there was like a silence in the track. There was no music and no singing. And that just like came right into my system there when I was sitting in silence. And I don't know if it's for me or for someone else on the call is petrified of silence, is petrified of sitting in the void. But if that's you, then let me know in the Q&A. The prayer that I have for everyone this week is that we can stay in our bodies long enough when we hear things that make us not feel great, and we can stay inside our bodies long enough and not fly into our head and not fly into a state of fight or flight where we have to respond to fear if we are in any way triggered. It's a word that we hear a lot in 2026 is being triggered by words, by situations, by actions of others. And I've been doing some in-person coaching this week where my main theme of the week of everyone that I've seen is that you can't need anything from someone else, because if you need something from someone else, then it's coming from a place of lack, that you don't have this thing within yourself, so therefore the other person has to provide it for you. And if they're not providing it for you in the way that you want it to be provided for, because we all create these little rule books in our minds where even if they're not conscious, if we're not conscious of them, we have rule books of how we expect other people to behave when they're in connection with us, especially if we're coming from a place of lack. And if they don't, if for whatever reason, because we cannot control anybody outside of ourselves, if for whatever reason they don't behave in the way that we've created this little rule book for, then that triggers our emotions. It triggers more often than not fear, and then fight or flight kicks in. And I always think, we fly out of our bodies and we react. I'm going to sneeze. Is it? I was going to sneeze. Oh, did not sneeze. So all I ask is that God, the highest energy within us, keeps so aligned with us. We're so aligned with that energy that we stay within our bodies whenever we hear or see or experience anything that causes us to react in a way that is not our best self, is that frightened little child inside. So that includes today on the call, if you hear anything that doesn't make you feel good, but also if you out in the world for the rest of the week, if you experience anything that doesn't make you feel good, the first question that I always ask myself is why is God creating this for me? Why is God putting this on my path? Why is God speaking to me through that person in this way? Because everything is God, everything, the whole spectrum, from dark to light, from good to evil, from the sun to the moon, it's the whole spectrum of God, the whole polarity from one pole to another. All of it is God. So if someone says something to you and you don't like it, you don't like what you're hearing, then the prayer that I have for everyone this week is that we can have enough space, silence, in between what we hear and how we react to what we hear, or what we experience and how we react to what we experience. And that comes from the practice of sitting in silence. And we do it here together every Wednesday. And I would encourage everybody to take 5, 10, 15 minutes every morning and every evening. You can build it up. You can start 2 to 3 times a week and then build it up to just sit in silence and strengthen the muscle of space within your system, that if someone does behave in a way that makes you feel anyway afraid, that you have that space in between where you understand if it's actual real danger and real fear, or if it's subconscious old programming that you've had from childhood. So this week's theme, I was musing on this earlier, and I think that there might actually be two themes, and I might be in trouble from the lovely Sarah if there's two themes, because then I don't know how the editing goes if there's two themes. But last week, I do want to touch on something that I was talking about last week, and I came off last week's call and I was like, oh, I told that whole story because there was like this part in the story of Frances' birth and our neonatal stay that I told the story specifically because there was a specific part that I'd been meditating on for weeks. That I was like, oh, this is this thing that happened while Frances was in the neonatal unit to Frances, to the baby, but it's also happened to me recently, me and my life, and how the two of them were just a repeat. It was a story that happened 10 years ago, and then it's a story that happens 10 years later, and we have repeated patterns in our life. We have cycles and seasons, and the patterns will repeat themselves and repeat themselves and repeat themselves until we learn to change the way that we react to the pattern, evolve the way that we are within the pattern, within the cycle, within the spiral. That's the whole purpose of it. So I do want to touch on that. But then yesterday, something happened to me, not a big thing, but a realization and a revelation to myself that I would like to talk about as well. So we do have two themes, and I'm going to drink some more of my coffee because it's going to get cold, and I really like this coffee. But I'm not sponsored by it, so I'm not going to put it up. I'm just going to have it like this. Um, so last week, if you're on last week's call, or if you're watching this on catch up, then you'll be able to find last week's live call on my YouTube channel. I told the story of how my youngest child was born at 24 weeks and she spent 16 weeks in the neonatal unit in 2016. And the main part of the story that I actually had been thinking while I was meditating that I was going to speak about, I just didn't get to it. I was too excited to talk about other things. And so if I go back without going over the whole story again, when Frances was born on the 20th of February 2016, the very first doctor told me that she wouldn't be coming home until at least the day she was due, which was the 8th of June the same year. And when they told me that on like the 21st of February, that seemed really, really far away to me. Like that was 4 months away. It just seemed like 40 years away. And I had this date in my mind and I was fixated on it because I was in such a heightened state of fight or flight and I wanted to control the situation that I fixated on this date of the 8th of June. I just had in my head the whole time, she's coming home on the 8th of June, she's coming home on the 8th of June. And about 3 weeks before the 8th of June, so just about mid-May, I was called into a meeting with one of the doctors that was looking after her, and he was the kind of main guy. He was like the neonatologist that was overseeing everything that Frances was experiencing in the unit. And we went in, and he was describing like our journey through the neonatal unit. By then she'd already been in for 13 weeks, and he's saying all the positives and all the challenges that she'd been through. And then I said, so she'll be coming home in a few weeks. I think it must have actually been the end of May because it was 2 weeks till the 8th of June. I said, but she'll be coming home in 2 weeks on the 8th of June. And he said to me, no, if Frances has got about another 6 weeks in the unit before she'll be well enough to go home. And I just completely lost my mind. Completely and utterly lost my mind. In the office, outside the office, I was on the floor, literally on the floor, with my head on my knees. I can't do another 6 weeks of this. I can't do it. And it was, my fight or flight, I've spoke about this many times, my fight or flight response has always been to fight. So if someone says something that I don't like, I don't shut down and walk away. I want to fight the person that's saying it to me. And that comes from growing up in an environment with lots and lots of people, and we all had big personalities. And I've got three older brothers and a little sister, who's the little sister's probably the wildest of the five of us. And we challenged each other. We all had big personalities. We all played pranks on each other. We would get annoyed at each other, and I would say probably all of our fight or flight reactions would be to fight. It took me such a long time in adulthood to into adulthood to understand that that was something that was subconsciously conditioned into us in the environment that we grew up in. Also in the outside environment, like where we lived in the west coast of Scotland, like the people are very stoic. There's the fiery Scot thing is not, it doesn't come from nowhere. And so I kind of positioned myself as a fiery Scot, and had a bit of a temper if someone didn't play the game that I wanted them to play. And during France's neonatal stay, that was God that wasn't playing the game the way that I wanted to play. So it was God that I was raging against every day. And then subsequently became sometimes the doctors and nurses. And so I was quite volatile. And this doctor who had told me that she would come home round about the 8th of June. And the interesting thing is, no one ever told me on the 8th of June. But what other people say and what we hear can often be, especially in a heightened state, can often be two very, very different things. I see this all the time with my clients. I know that I do it myself. I know that my little girl does it. I know that my older daughter does it. I say something, they repeat back to me what they think I've said, and it's not what I've said to them. I know that I also do it, so I'm not sitting here saying that I'm on the throne and, don't do these things also. If you're in a heightened state and someone says something, or even if you're just in a normal state and someone says something to you, you've got to run it through the filter of your programming. And your programming is it's been programmed into you by every single experience you've ever had in your life. I often talk about I had two clients, one at one point, one was a horse rider and one was terrified of horses. And it just blew my mind that this one person was so terrified of horses that she wouldn't walk on a certain path, or wouldn't jog on a certain path when she was out running because it was next to a field that sometimes there was horses in. And at the same time, I had a client who was a similar age who just absolutely like lived for horses. And I was like, what is it about? I mean, the horse is still a horse. How come this woman's behaving like this and this woman's behaving like this around this same animal that's not doing anything different? So that's true of speech as well. It's like, so I could say something, one thing to one person and they could take it in one way, and one thing to another person and they'll take it in another. So with that in mind and with that information, we can understand that we're all communicating with each other, but we're not all communicating with each other in exactly the same way. And so this doctor had said to me that she would be coming home not before the 8th of June, but what I heard was she would be coming home on the 8th of June because that was the day she was due. And if you've ever had babies, they don't normally come exactly when they're due. They come when they want to come. And but I had fixated and I had decided that the doctor told me that she was going to come on the 8th of June, which was untrue. He did not tell me that. He said not before the 8th of June. And so when he then said to me that it was looking like it was going to be the start of July at the least, could have been going into the middle of July, and I had been sitting there every day since the 20th of February. I just couldn't see it. I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm at the end of my tether. I cannot do it. And I remember like walking outside and sitting down on the floor outside the office and just being like, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And later that day, someone said to me, but you will be able to do it. Like, you will, like, you're standing here saying that you can't, but what you going to do in 2 weeks' time? Are you going to just like stop coming to see her in the neonatal unit every day? Like, of course, you're still going to keep coming because what I kept saying was, I can't keep coming into this hospital every day. I just can't keep doing it. It's driving me insane. And the thing that the doctor said to me that day was, we don't know how and why this happens, but it happens with all the babies that they have a roller coaster where they're going up and down and up and down and up and down, and they get infections and they need blood transfusions, and something happens, and you go in one day and they're great, and the next day they're not so great, and you never ever know how it's going to be from one day to the next. And then one day the baby turns a corner. This is how he described it to me. He said she will turn a corner, and from that day onward, she'll just start going like this. And there'll be less infections, less need for blood transfusions, less need for antibiotics, less need for all this. She'll just gain weight, she'll just get pinker, she'll just get cuter and chubbier and all these things. And you just know that that's her, she's turned the corner. And, being in this really extreme heightened state of fight or flight, I was like, well, around about what time does that happen? Like, what on average, how old are they when they turn the corner? I wanted statistics, and I was never realized how much of a numbers girl I was until my baby was in hooked up to a ventilator, and our CO2 numbers were in front of me every day, and I would study those numbers. And one of the things that I look back on now, and I know that it was the hand of God that made me so super disciplined on this, is that I would not allow myself to Google or look up online any stories around premature babies. I just made a decision on the day she was born that I wasn't going to what I now term as research, and I research absolutely everything. Like, you have no idea the things that I research, which is just another word for Google. My friend came into the room the other day, and I was sitting staring into space, and he was like, "Are you spacing out?" And I said, yeah, I said, yeah. I was like, I don't know what that means. Are you spacing? He said. I said, I'm not sure what that term means. And he's like, I just would love to know what you're thinking about when you're spacing out, because you have so many like great thoughts, like, also not so great thoughts, by the way. He's like, I'd just love to know what you're spacing out about. And I was like, well, to be honest, there's a book on your shelf that says P.S. I still love you. So I've been sitting here thinking about the where did the term PS come from, and thinking to myself, get up and go and get your phone, which was in the other room, and go and Google research PS, and then I'd kind of gone down a rabbit hole in my own mind of I wonder when typewriters were um invented, and and why, like, who and why and where were typewriters invented, and that's what I was sitting staring into space about. And my friend, who's really lovely, thought that I was sitting there, staring into space and thinking about God and thinking about evolution and higher levels of consciousness, and it was actually just the origins of typewriters and the letters PS. So take it back to where I was, which was I I like to know things. I like to know the facts. I like to know the numbers. I like to know the statistics. It's a safety mechanism for me. If, recently my friend, she knew someone that was in hospital, and I was asking questions about the hospital stay that she didn't know the answer to, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. They would be the first questions I would ask someone, but that's me looking for safety. Give me all the information, and then I know what I'm doing with all the information. So I made this decision, and it was a conscious decision. I made it on the day that Francis was born, that I was not going to research any statistics around premature babies. I've actually never done it. She's 10, and I've never looked up. They gave us a statistic on the first day that she had a 10% chance of surviving the first 24 hours. And if she did survive the first 24 hours, then the chances of her survival would increase after that. So this doctor telling me on this day, after I'd probably been in the neonatal unit I've been there for over 3 months, where he was like, we don't know. And I mean, he preempted it. He told me, we don't know why, we don't know how, we don't know where it comes from. We just know that one day, and it's different for every baby, they turn a corner. But that wasn't good enough for me. I wanted all the information about it. And that happened probably about 3 days after that conversation where the doctor had told me she hasn't turned the corner. We know she hasn't turned the corner because she's still very up and down. She's still requiring steroids. She's still requiring antibiotics. She's still requiring blood transfusions. We don't know. She's, sometimes her weight's up, sometimes it's down. And this is by a couple of grams because she's so small. She's still at this point under 2 kilograms. So she's still no, I think at that point she might have been, no, she was 3 pounds the day she came home, so we did it in pounds. So she's still so small that it's, they're weighing her in grams, and she gains 10 grams and then loses 10 grams, and I'm losing my mind every time she loses 10 grams, and it's such a roller coaster. And I think his name was Dr. Kissinger, and he was like, she's not turned the corner yet. And I left the office, and I was like, so I can't control this. Like, looking back now, when I look back and I join the dots of why I was losing my shit over it, was because I couldn't control it. There was no statistics. There was nothing. There was no, this is going to happen on this day, and then everything will be okay. And that was true of the whole 16 weeks. Like, I couldn't control anything that was happening. And I had created a life where I could control everything, not least the personality that I showed to the world. I had created a personality that was much like a chameleon, in that I could walk into any room and make friends with any person because I just became like the person I was talking to, which kept me safe, but got me in lots of trouble as well, because I would just agree with everything that was going on unless the person triggered me, and then I wanted to fight them. And it's not that I wasn't argumentative or didn't have opinions. I did, but I also was a massive people pleaser at the same time, and a chameleon that could just go into any situation. And so I'd controlled so much of my personality, I controlled so much of my life. And a lot of that comes from the fact that I was abused as a child, was that I was terrified of anybody finding out what had happened to me, first of all, and also the real me that was underneath this. This wasn't a conscious thing. Like, I wasn't consciously aware of the fact that I was terrified of that. I just subconsciously created a personality where everybody would think that I was the same as everybody else, because the story that I told myself deep in my subconscious was that I was different from everyone else because I had been abused. And so I made myself the same as everyone else, and I controlled every environment that I was in, and I controlled myself so that no one would ever find out this awful secret that I had that no one ever knew about. And that control was taken from me the day that Francis was born, and it was massively taken from me on the day that I walked into that doctor's office, because for 14 weeks I had been so fixated on this date of the 8th of June, that she was coming home on the 8th of June. And then this doctor who, he's the authority in this situation, he's telling me, no, it's likely going to be at least 6 weeks. And so then he just would not give me anything on the turning the corner chat. He was just like, I don't know when it'll be. I can't tell you when it'll be. Every baby's different. I can't tell you by looking at her. Like, there's just no way. She will turn a corner and everything will just start to open up, and it'll get better and she'll get stronger, and then she can come home. So what subsequently happened was she turned that corner a couple of days later, and Frances did come home on the 8th of June. So I manifested, I said it often enough to myself and to other people that she would come home on the 8th of June, and she did. She came home on the exact day she was due. And recently I've been thinking about the turning the corner, and I kept hearing it all the time. And I realised that the same pattern of behaviour plays out in my clients and in myself. So we have these cycles, these seasons where we are in absolute turmoil and we're on a roller coaster. And for a couple of weeks, or maybe a couple of days, or maybe a couple of hours, we feel okay. And then something happens out there and it just throws us back into turmoil again. And we have a couple of days of turmoil, or a couple of weeks, or you might even be sitting here watching this and you've had a couple of years of turmoil. And then every now and again you'll get like a little glimpse of happiness, or a glimpse of joy, or a glimpse of how life could be. And then you go back into turmoil again, and it's a roller coaster. And then one day you'll turn a corner. And it's something I've noticed in quite a lot of my clients recently, all seem to have turned a corner at the same time. And then I was reflecting on it for the past couple of weeks, is why I wanted to tell this story last week, is that I also have turned a corner recently, like as recent as for sure this year, where going through periods of challenge and roller coaster cycles, and things are going great, and I'm happy, and everything's peace seems to be peaceful, and then something comes along, and it happens from the outside, and it throws me. And then it was coming to this realization, and it's not something that this is not something that I've not been teaching for a long time. Like I've been teaching this, like you're always getting what you want. I didn't probably didn't use the word God as much as what I would use it now. Like in the past year, I use the word God a whole lot more. And I'm not sure if I've told this story. If I have, then I apologise, because I think if I have, then I've told it in recent weeks. That when last year when I had a miscarriage, and it was a few months into the pregnancy, and I was really, really devastated by it. And I had to go to the doctors and find out why I'd had the miscarriage. And I was really, really scared to go and speak to the doctor. And I was so absolutely terrified of what he had to say. And I woke up this morning, it was a Tuesday morning last summer, and I woke up and I got in my car and I drove to the hospital, and it was raining. It was one of those summer days in the UK where the rain's like pouring down. And I was sitting and my legs were shaking so much. And the thing that I remembered was that I was like, there's only a few times in my life where I've remembered my legs shaking so violently as what they did that day. The day that I sat my first driving test when I was 30, I was very shocked at how much my legs shook. When I had my baby at 24 weeks, and also when the day that my mum died, when I walked into the ICU in Scotland and my mum had already passed away, this shaking, like really, really extreme shaking feeling in my legs. And I'd gone in, I went into the doctor's office, and I realized what had been in my subconscious for since the day of the miscarriage. Was there was a few months between these two, or maybe like 10 weeks between these two occurrences, like the miscarriage and then the doctor's visit. And I walked into the doctor's office and I sat down on the seat and I looked at him, and I was shaking and crying, and I was just like, I couldn't even hold my head up. And I was like, I had my head down like this, and I'm crying my eyes out, and I was like, and I looked up at him and I said, "Have I done something wrong?" Or I think I might have said, "Is this my fault?" And he said, "No, you didn't do anything wrong. This isn't anybody's fault." And he then explained to me what had happened to the baby, and why I'd had a miscarriage. And when I went back to my house, I lay on the floor in my kitchen, on the floor, because I remember standing in my kitchen and looking at the kitchen and laid out in front of me, and there's a sofa, and I knew that I wasn't going to sit on that sofa. I knew that I was going to lie on the rug on the floor. And because I heard the words lie down, lie down. By the way, there's like beds upstairs and stuff, but I wanted to lie down on the floor. And I lay down on the floor, and I curled up in a ball. And what I said to one of my clients recently was, what happened was I began praying, but I didn't realize I was praying, because I didn't consciously think, okay, I'm going to talk to God. That's not what I did. I lay on the floor and I was like, please, please keep my heart open. Please keep my heart open. That's what I kept repeating. That's a prayer. Who was I asking to keep my heart open? Like, when I look back on it later, I was like, right, well, who's it talking to? It's my heart's in my body. Please just keep my heart open. Don't let my heart close over. Don't, because I had been so excited about this pregnancy, and then losing the baby. And I knew that one of the things that I had to look out for was to not become so grief stricken with it that it made me angry. and that anger closed my heart. So I knew enough about my own patterns of behaviors in the past when things had happened to me or things had happened in my life that if I didn't sit with the grief, then I would harden myself against the grief, because that's what we do, right? You have a wound, and the wound scabs over. It goes hard over the top of it, and before it heals. And I didn't want that to happen to this wound, like this wounding that I had, this grief that I had. It's like I don't want it to get hard, like my body to get hard, my heart to get hard. I don't want to have anger. So just release the grief from my body. Like just let me be sad. I will be sad for as long as I need to be sad. And like lying on the floor, looking back like a few months later, and I spoke to someone about it, where I was lying on the floor talking to God. I didn't know that I was talking to God. So this is more of and since the miscarriage, that I would more use the term God than anything else. And I've got no idea why I went down that path. Wait a minute to have a drink of my coffee. Yeah, turning the corner. Right, these are the things that poor Sarah's got um it out. So I turned a corner this year after everything that happened last year, where I've been teaching for years that everything that happens is supposed to happen in exactly the way that it happens. That's supposed to be what happens. So when I had the miscarriage, a version of me still believed that to be true, but was being constantly overtaken by the version of me that was just absolutely grief-stricken. That's the natural way of things. Like that's what's supposed to happen. You're supposed to feel sad at loss, because that's the energy that's designed to flow through our body, the emotion that's designed to flow through our body. We're not supposed to have fear, or not supposed to have grief, or not supposed to have anger. God doesn't make any mistakes. We have all of these feelings for a reason. What the challenges that we have as humans is that we keep repressing the feelings. We keep shoving them down so that we can't feel them, and then we repeat the pattern of behavior. We repeat the cycle over and over again until we will feel the feelings that we have been repressing. So there was clearly still grief in my system that was coming up to be seen now that I had gone through this awful experience of losing my baby. And the grief, the human body, the human system, and God, the God within us all, is so unbelievably intelligent, and that grief was telling me stories. The emotion of sadness was telling me stories. It had so much information and this energy that was flowing through my system, and the stories that it was telling me were not just about what was going through in that moment. They were also about things that had happened in the past. I clearly hadn't processed enough, because they were still coming up again and again and again. These stories were still coming up. So I hadn't processed them enough to let go of them. So while I was grieving the loss of the baby, I was also grieving so many other things that had happened in my life. And I would journal on it. And I've spoke about this before. Like we brought the baby's remains home and took him to Scotland to bury him. And so I had his remains in my house for a little while, and I would lie in front of the box with his remains on the floor. I've got no idea why I constantly lay on the floor. I'm a sometimes sit on the floor gal. Like if there's loads of people, then yeah, I would sit on the floor. I've got no problem with it. If you're in like a party, or like everybody's in the house and everybody's sitting on the sofa and the chairs, I'd sit on the floor. I don't have a problem with that at all. But I wouldn't pick the floor over anybody else, over anybody else. What? Over, what does that even mean? Over anything else. I'd pick the nice comfy sofa, and it's not that I didn't have a comfy sofa and comfy bed, but I just constantly lay on the floor for months. And for a short period of time, I would lie in front of the baby's box with these remains in it, and I would just lie there and just again pray, ask God, just release this. Let me feel the sadness. Let me feel it. Just let it come out of my body. And I'd be lying there crying. I'd be crying for my mum, crying for my dad, crying for my brothers and sister, and just crying for everybody. Like that this thing happened to that person and that made me feel sad, and I didn't release the tears at the time, and just cried for months and months and months. I cried. It's not that I don't still cry now. I cry a lot. I cry yesterday. I'm going to tell you the story of what happened yesterday, and I went upstairs and cried about it. And I I released the grief. I released enough of it that I could turn a corner. And then I went to Malta, and I had more to release. And I would release it in the sea, and sometimes it would come up as anger, and I'd be punching the water at Spinola Bay, and just loads and loads of huge releases, physical and spiritual. And then I turned a corner, and what happened was a couple of months later, like all my clients follow suit. Everybody starts turning the same corner because of the way that I was able to articulate what was actually happening. And that's where this call came from. And the idea for this call like came through my body because I'd released enough grief to see what was underneath. Released enough stagnant grief, because you're not just carrying the grief of yourself, you're carrying the grief of your ancestors. You're carrying all the tears your mother couldn't cry, your father couldn't cry, their mother and father before them, their mother and father before them. I said this to someone I was speaking to this week. She's only young, and I said, you know, you don't just get your mum's nose or your dad's hair. You get everything that they repressed as well within them, and you recognize some of it, and you either become like them or you become the opposite of them. And but all of it's required for your programming. God doesn't make any mistakes. Like if you've got your dad's dark hair, but you've also got his um his the fact that he's late for meetings, then you've got that same pattern of behavior. But if you've also got his creativity, then you have to be thankful for both. And God doesn't make any mistakes, and all these things were amalgamated into to create you, and you're a perfect child of God, a perfect child of the universe, a perfect child of love. And the things that we see that we like about ourselves and that we got from other people, and the things that we see that we don't like that we got from other people, they're all there to be witnessed and to be evolved from. And so I wasn't just crying the grief of what had happened to me. I was crying the grief of, and I remember writing about it in my journal about the amount of women in my family that had lost babies or had babies that died at birth or had children that died. And there was a lot for like in a span of a few generations. There was a lot of babies, and like having this moment where in the grief process where it's also again like speaking to God and being like, let me release the grief that they were carrying. Like if it's been passed down to me from grandmothers and great grandmothers and my own mother who had a miscarriage, and then I will release their grief as well. I'm feeling in amongst it all very blessed to be the person that was asked to do these things, and that the energy that brought us all here believed that I was strong enough to do it. And and after I released all the grief and released all the stagnant emotions that were inside of me, then that was when I began to hear the word of God more. That the word of God is also our intuition. Our intuition is an instruction manual of how we get through life in the most joyous way. That is the word of God. That is also called your intuition, and it's a complete instruction manual. It's a complete set of programming in your body and your system. I say this to my clients all the time. It's just codes, right? You've just been coded in this system. If we could take ourselves out of it and just see it, and I'm not suggesting that I often say this, The Matrix was a documentary, not a movie, but I'm not suggesting that we just start walking about and seeing other people as computer programs, and especially not in the age of AI. But it is coding and it is programming, and it can be recoded and it can be reprogrammed. And often the way to get to that recoding and that reprogramming, to get to that place where you can hear your intuition that will show you as an individual, I could never do it for you, no one else could ever do it for you, that will speak to you through your body of the recoding, of the reprogramming. I had a client this week who her programming, her conditioning is the other word for it, but let's call it her coding, her programming, is that if someone, and it's usually me, points out something that she doesn't like to hear, then her automatic reaction, and this is the automatic reaction of every client I've ever sat in front of, and certainly every female client I've ever sat in front of, and certainly is my own coding and my own programming, my own conditioning that I carry within myself, is that she just says that, she will make herself better than the person that's questioning her. So in this instance, it was me. And she was like, well, you said things that I didn't like, so I left the session. And I was like, well, what does she know? She doesn't know this, she doesn't know that. And she was, in her mind, she was creating a hierarchy where she was better than me. She knew more than me, she was more intelligent than me. She didn't have to do the things that I was asking her to do, and she didn't have to listen to the things that I was saying because she created this hierarchy to keep herself safe. Um, and then, spoke to me about it a couple of days later, and I was like, well, logically, it's also true. You do know more about this particular thing that we were talking about. In a lot of senses, you are far more intelligent, that you have far more intelligence in this thing that we are talking about than what I do. But then what do we do? You can leave the program, or you can stay sitting here while I ask you questions about something that, yes, you know more about than I do, but I'm just an outside observer looking at it. And she came back a couple of days later and just had completely reprogrammed herself. And it's wonderful to watch. It's wonderful to see. Like, it makes my heart so happy when I'm sitting here and I'm like, this person has just recoded their whole system. And she was like, so I've decided that when you say something to me, I'm going to react in three ways, and it's going to be listen, internalize, and then have curiosity for what you're saying for me. And she came up with this recoding, this reprogramming completely by herself. I did not sit and say to her, you need to listen, you need to then internalize this, and then you need to go away and have curiosity about what I'm saying. I didn't say that to her. Perhaps if I had said it to her, she might have listened to a certain degree, but what happened was her intuition told her to do that. Her own programming told her to do that. The God within her told her to do that. And that was because of the trigger of the things that I had said, and her having enough trust in me that even when I triggered her, that she still recognized that what the questions that I was asking were needed to be asked. I've gone down on a rabbit hole, guys. My father used to say a good tradesman never blames his tools, but I did think to myself before I got here, before I got to this call, not before I got here on this planet, that don't worry, it's come back, but I'm going to finish this sentence. That because I'm doing these calls now at 9 a.m. instead of my usual 3 p.m. that it's a bit that my system's a bit like, why are we doing this call at this time in the morning? Because I have a ritual, I have a set of rituals that I do before my call. And one of them is I watch a silly movie, and it's got to be silly, and it's got to be like comedy or just silly and light. And well, it was at 9 a.m. and I was getting Francis out to camp, so I couldn't do it, my movie. So I did it yesterday afternoon. And when I woke up this morning, I was a bit like, oh, my ritual's a bit off. Is my call going to be okay? So I think this might be why I keep going down tangents and then can't bring myself back. But I've remembered how to bring myself back, which is um the turning the corner, which is where we got to. Also, it's got to this time in the call where I'm going to say, if you've got any questions about anything that I've said so far, then please write them now in the Q&A so that when I begin my wrap up, then your questions are there. So if you've got any questions about turning the corner, about how you know if you've turned a corner, which I'm going to elaborate on a bit more, about how you would know if the voice of God is speaking through you, about how you react when people trigger you. If you've got any questions about anything that I've said today, then please put them in the Q&A now. The the turning of the corner came for me through a period of what I call to my clients, what I term for my clients is chop wood, carry water, of doing the things that you need to do in order to get back into your body to turn the corner to hear the voice of God within you. I often joke with my clients that I I I it looks like I'm in the film The Karate Kid, which was out I think in the 80s or 90s. So if you're on here and you're not old enough to remember The Karate Kid, then go and watch it. It's an awesome movie. And Daniel was my first love. And Daniel LaRusso, I think his name was. He was my first love. And he goes to Mr. Miyagi, who is teaching him how to fight karate, and Mr. Miyagi gets him to wax cars and paint fences, and it's wax on, wax off is the phrase from that movie. And Daniel is annoyed because all the other boys are learning to fight, and he's learning how to do movements of wax on, wax off, and painting the fence. And he gets annoyed at Mr. Miyagi, but Mr. Miyagi knows what he's doing, and when he goes in to fight, the patterns that he has learned through the other things that he's been taught enable him to win the fight. So I often use this analogy with my clients where, yeah, I'm asking you to do these things that seem a bit like I'm asking you to wax on, wax off, but they are strengthening your spirit. They are strengthening your connection with God, and they are allowing you, when you stand up and you do this thing that you're being asked to do, they are giving you the patterns of behavior that you need. So for instance, if you want to, I've got, male clients that want to take their figures from their business from 6 figures to 7 figures. Okay, right, then we have to look at the behavior of a 7 or 8 figure business owner. Are they more disciplined than you? Do they have more self-respect than what you currently have? What's their patterns of behaviors, not just their everyday habits in their life, but their pattern of behavior in certain situations. Then you have to adopt them now before you've got the 7 or 8 figures in your bank account. So this is the wax on, wax off. So this looks like going to bed at a certain time and getting up at a certain time, speaking to people in a certain way, allowing others to speak to you in a certain way. If people treat you in a way that's disrespectful, then you say, I'm not, I'm not going to be a part of this, and you remove yourself from the situation, or um, you sit with God, you sit in silence, and you hear the next steps of the things that you have to do to become this person over here who has the thing that you desire. That's looks a lot like chop wood and carry water. It looks a lot like, one of my female clients got upset with me this week. She's like, you're honing in on the little things, you're honing in on these little things that don't seem to matter. And I was explaining they do matter, because it's a pattern of behavior that you have that is here, 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 here. So if we could fix it here in the little daily habits, then it will just evolve out and out and out, and it will be fixed within the psyche and the frequency that this person that has what you desire, that they vibrate at. But we have to do the little chop wood and carry water over here. I chopped enough wood and carried enough water that I turned a corner in my relationship with God, my highest self, that I think I spoke about this, where I was like, I didn't know what to call this call, which just blows my mind now, considering I've got it written on my left forearm. I didn't know what to call it. And then, like, and speaking, and I wasn't meditating when the name for it came to me. I was in a flow of conversation with someone, and I was like, and give it to God. And then I was like, oh, that's the name of the call. There it is. But the meditating that I was doing morning and night enabled the space to be created within my system, so that instruction, right, that instruction through my intuition, through the voice of God, could come through to me on that call with my friend, where I was just in a flow of conversation, and it came out, and straight away. And what I had heard while I was in meditation was, you'll know the name of the call when you hear it. You'll know it when you hear it, and you'll know that's it. And I was trying with my logical brain to come up with really cool names for this call. It's like, oh, what will I call it? I'll call it this, I'll call it that. And I would say names to people, and they'd be like, And then that day when I was like, give it to God, that's what it's called. My friend was just like, she was on Zoom. She was like, yep, yep, that's it. That's it. Because of the energy that just flowed through my system when I said it. That connection, that turning the corner, that everything starts going up, everything starts getting better, everything starts getting easier. Your life just feels more relaxed, more joyful, more fun, and more success. I did a lot of releasing stagnant emotions for a good while, like I would say probably about 9 months of releasing stagnant emotions. And then having a period of time of chop wood, carry water, which for me, the chopping wood and the carrying water was meditating every morning and every night, which I still do. Um, Journaling every morning and every night, drinking a certain drink every morning and every night, which I have no idea why I drink the ingredients. I put these ingredients in a cup and I drink them every morning, a certain drink every morning, and I drink a certain drink every night. I was in a supermarket and I just started putting my hands on herbs and spices and I just created this drink and just went from there. And I've been doing that for 8 months and enjoy it. And I don't know if it's the ritual or if it's the exact herbs or spices that I'm having. I don't know. It could just be the ritual. It could just be a placebo, but it works and I really enjoy doing it. And these were the chop wood and carry water. And these were the things that enabled me to be able to start hearing my instruction manual, my intuition, the word of God flowing through me more and more. So that is the theme of this week's call. I don't have any questions. If you do have questions, then please write them now, so that I can answer within the last 30 minutes. If we don't have any questions, then I will be wrapping up early. I will quickly touch on something and I'm going to tell the story and then I'm going to tell you that it's going to be the theme of next week's call rather than launching into a huge discussion about it now. So the theme of this week's call is turning the corner and how we get to turning the corner. And we get to that through releasing stagnant emotions that we carry within ourselves and also how we release the I've just had a question come through, so I'm like, this is the thing, like I ask for questions and then people ask questions and I'm like totally thrown by it. I'm like, oh my God, I've been asked a question. Um, I'll come to it in a second. That and now I've completely forgotten what I was actually saying before I got asked the question. Completely forgotten. I need to get better at this. I'm getting better at this. Um, we turn the corner, we get to a stage where we can turn the corner, we start to hear the voice of that highest self within us that we call God. We do that in a system. There is a system to it. The doctor told me that there was no statistics and there was no system and there was no way of telling when the babies would be able to turn a corner. But there will be a pattern. There will be a pattern somewhere within that. All of nature has patterns within it. So if they studied enough babies and looked at it would be a multitude of different things. There will be a pattern that it follows, and there is a pattern that I have followed every time that I've gone through anything that has been a huge energetic clearing of my system. Is that as long as I allow myself to clear the energy physically, which is crying, shouting, um, lots of different ways that we can clear it. But those are the main ones for me: crying, shouting, allowing the grief to come up to be seen, not pushing it back down, creating space for myself, creating stillness, creating space within my diary physically and also within myself in the form of meditation where I can just release all the everyday thoughts that are up here and find out what's underneath. The releasing of stagnant energy that we've repressed in the system, and also then the hearing of what your instructions are for your chopping wood and carrying water, right? They're not going to be the same as mine. As people who certainly come into my programs and I give them things to do. Sometimes I hear specific things for people while I'm on a call with them, like, oh, I want you to do this thing and I want you to do that thing. And it's very specific to that person. And then other times I'm like, right, well, here's something that's worked for 10 women that I've done this with before. I want you to go and do this thing. I want you to go do that. And it generally looks out of the ordinary of what they normally do. And it generally looks like Mr. Miyagi telling Daniel to wax on, wax off. It looks like it's got nothing to do with the thing that you're actually wanting to get to over there. And, I say to my clients, you have to trust me on this. I know it doesn't look like you doing this little thing over here doesn't look anything like, but that's not getting me towards that thing, but it is. And all of the little things that happened in Frances' life in the first 14 weeks got her to the stage where she was able to turn the corner. So someone has asked, what does turning the corner look like? It's a really good question, and it's a difficult question for me to convey, other than it's a feeling within your body, which I often say, right? And that's hard if you're sitting here and you haven't felt that feeling in your body, you don't know what I'm talking about. But this is why I'm telling you what the system is to get to that feeling is. The system is allowing yourself enough space and time to purify the system of the stagnant energies that you've repressed in childhood, and the people before you have repressed and handed down. And then and one of those is sitting still and being in silence. And sitting still and being in silence is also called meditation. That then you will hear then your very, very unique instructions that you get from God through your body. And the thing is, and one of my clients said this to me this week. I said, how did you get to this place where you did this thing to get this result? She said, I was meditating and I heard the instructions and I didn't like them, so I knew they were right, because if I don't like it, it generally means I'm afraid and I've got to push through a barrier of fear. So then I pushed through a barrier of fear and I did the thing, right? So I often say this, you'll hear the instructions and you won't like it. 90% of the time you won't like it, but you still have to do it anyway. So you have to ask yourself why you don't like the thing that you hear. Because you're afraid. You're afraid of change, and you're afraid of things being different, and you're afraid of who you will be if you do these things. But also you've got a desire that lives over there that is not who you currently are. So who you currently are sitting here does not have that desire. The desire that you have is over there. And that person who has that desire is not vibrating at the same frequency as the vibration that is the frequency that you're vibrating at, or you would already have the desire. So to get to the desire, you have to change something internally, energetically within you. To do that, you have to not allow fear to win. So if you're asked to do something and you pretend that you can't hear it because you're afraid to do something different, or if you sit across from someone like me in session, or a coach, or some kind of healer, or something in that realm that goes, why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And your immediate reaction is to blow up and want to fight the person, and they don't know what they're talking about, and X, Y, all of this. Then you have to sit with yourself and ask yourself why your body has reacted in that way, why your body has reacted in a state of fear. Okay, you have to push through the barrier of fear. You have to release the fear. And the way that we release the fear is do the things that we're afraid of. It's a really, really good instruction manual. It's a really, really simple solution to the problem. Do the things that you're afraid of, and you'll no longer be afraid of them. I mean, it couldn't get any more simple. So if you do those things, then you are essentially recoding your energetic system by releasing stagnant energy of fear of things that, I like to be in control and I like things to be this certain way. And someone comes along and goes, by the way, you're going to have to do that differently. And you're like, no, I don't want to do it differently because I've created this control in my life and it's got me to here. Yeah, but it's not going to get you over to there, to that other thing that you now want, because your consciousness has evolved that what got you to here won't get you to there. And people don't like that, okay? And the stronger the ego, the stronger the fight that you'll put up. The easiest person to lie to is yourself. The easiest person to fool is yourself, right? You can sit here and you can sit across from me and you can sit across from any other coaches, and you can say, but what about this and what about that and what about this? If a client's sitting across from me saying, but what about, but what about, but what about, I'm like, well, you're just in a state of fear. Why don't you just listen to what I'm saying? Just listen. Just take it in. Just listen to what I'm saying. And then just don't say anything for a minute. Just sit with it, because your immediate state of fear wants to go, but I want things to stay the same. I have got no idea why I've gone down this tangent again, but I know that it's to do with the question that was asked, which is that's how you get to the corner, right? You get to the corner by releasing the stagnant energy within your system. You release the stagnant energy within your system by giving yourself enough space and time and stillness to feel the feelings that are coming up. You're in a situation and someone does something that annoys you or upsets you, and usually you have a pattern of behavior that you normally have. Now that could be blowing up, then you're being asked to quieten yourself down and listen. If that looks like running away, then you're being asked to stand still and face your fear. If that looks like fight, then you're being asked to adopt a persona of peace and just observe rather than fighting. We're always being asked to do the opposite of our go-to response. So if we are triggered, then we're being asked for stillness and silence. So we should practice stillness and silence over here. when we're in a nice relaxed state. So just make it a practice of your everyday life, and then you will hear your own unique instructions through your system, through the God that resides within you and the God that speaks to you. And then I'm sitting here telling you right here, right now, and I'll say it to you until I'm blue in the face. You come and do my program, you're my friend, you do anything to do with any of the work that I do, I will tell you, you will not like the things that you're being asked to do, and you're going to have to do them anyway, because if you want to evolve, things have got to change. So yeah, you're going to be asked to do chop wood and carry water things over here, and then the evolution just starts happening. And so someone is asked, what does turning the corner look like? You just start achieving all your desires. Like, you just start getting everything that you asked for. You just start feeling better within yourself. You feel more joy, you feel more impulses. The path opens up. It's like you ask for something and then you get it. I've got two instances to talk to you about when that happened, because that's what next week's call is going to be on. You instant manifestation happens. You feel it in your body. You have a feeling of safety, joy, excitement for what's coming. You're no longer on a roller coaster of emotions. Things happen outside of you. They don't trigger you in the same way that they would have before. It's not that you will never be triggered again, it's that they don't trigger you in the same way before, because you always know that you've got this higher energy within you that's guiding you along, that's taking you along on the path, that has your back, right? God has your back. This energy that we carry within us has got your back. Like I said to one of my clients this week, where are we at with God? And she was like, I just hear, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me all the time. It's like God speaking to her, just give it to me, which is, the name of the call and the tattoo. Give it to God. God's standing there going, just give it all to me, give it all to me. I'll carry it for you. You don't need to carry it. All you need to do is sit still and be in silence and find joy within yourself and become childlike, okay? Become like the children of God, curiosity, unconditional love, and an alignment and a connection with that highest energy within yourself. And then you will start to turn the corner. And by the way, it's a spiral. Okay, so you turn the corner and everything will start going great, and it'll be awesome for a couple of years, maybe if you're very lucky, a couple of months, a couple of weeks. And then it's like, oh, there's something else that you need to learn. It's all these lessons that we're learning along the way. Oh, okay, it's just something else that you need to learn. So we're going to throw this, I like when I say we, because it's like me and God, in the plural. We're going to throw this situation in front of you, and we're going to see if you've been paying attention, and if you're going to behave in a different way to what you normally would behave, then you know you've turned a corner. So I hope that answers your question. It kind of does and doesn't, because I said it's a feeling within yourself, but also the outside world will show it to you, because everything will just start getting better and easier and more joyful and just more in alignment, and you will feel more in alignment with who you truly are and what you truly desire. And you just know when you've got God inside of you, you just know. It's just a feeling inside of you that you carry with you at all times. The way to get there is to release the stagnant emotions that's blocking you from that alignment with God, and then listen for the chop wood, carry water instructions that you have to do. And sometimes it's not just chop wood, carry water. Sometimes it's big things that you have to do. Go and have that conversation with that person that scares you. Go and do that thing that you don't want to do, that you've been hearing for years, but you've not had the courage to do. Just go and actually start taking action on it. You don't like it, your ego doesn't like it, the child within you doesn't like it, but the version of you that desires the things, that wants to evolve, that's God. That's the highest version of you, and that energy is constantly within you, and you are that energy. Anything that's not that is not who you truly are. You are God. So if everything else is a lack of God, it's a blockage on the path to God. Like, you are God. You were born as God, you will die as God. You are a fragment of the energy that created everything on this planet. If you don't feel like you're in alignment with God, if you don't feel like you can create anything that your heart desires, I'm going to cough, because that's what happens every week. I get into this bit at the end where I'm like, oh my, and I'm like so excited, and then I'm like, my throat starts to hurt. Wait a minute. My coffee's a bit cold. Don't need to heat it up. Um, So this happens every week. I get to the end of the call and it's like I get all this. Do you know what it is that's actually happening is I'm feeding off all the energy of everybody that's on the call because everybody's here to learn about God. That's why the call's called Give It to God. You're not here as someone that doesn't, it just wants to fight God, right? You might not have a very clear connection with that God inside yourself. You might run away from the word, you might be afraid of the word, you might be not as connected to the word as what I am, as what some other people on the call are, but you're here out of curiosity. And I think that what's happening is at the end of every call, everybody's energy in the room is all just coming together, and I'm absorbing everybody else's energy, and I start to get really, really excited. And I'm not just, when I'm speaking in flow, I'm not just speaking in the flow of what's coming through my own system, I'm speaking in flow of what's coming through everybody in the call system as well. So it's like this connection that we've all got that it's coming out of my mouth at this moment. So this is why it gets to the end of every week and I get really, really excited and then I'm like, oh, I need to take a drink of water or a drink of coffee. So I hope that answered your question about what does turning the corner look like, and certainly I hope it answered your question as to how we get to the place where we turn the corner. And if you've got any questions on that, then please just write them on the video and we'll answer them on next week's call, or also come on next week's call and ask the questions. Or if you're here and you have if anybody has any other questions on, you haven't explained that well enough, Ali, could you explain it better or anything, then please just write them now. But what I want to touch on before we leave is the theme of next week's call, because I was going to break this into two and then I just chatted for an hour about what last week's theme should have been about. I'm getting better at this, I promise. Is instant manifestation, right? And what a message that I heard through my body for years and years was anything you wish for with a truthful heart will instantly be made manifest. And I would hear it all the time when I was walking about, and sometimes when I was meditating, sometimes when I'm in the sea. Anything you wish for with a truthful heart will instantly be made manifest. So that's never more obvious than it is in little kids. So Francis and I were walking along the road here the other day, and it's really, really warm in Toronto just now. And we were out walking, and it was like 11 o'clock in the morning. And she was really, really warm. And she was walking along, she was dragging her little feet, and she was like, Mama, I'm so hot, I'm so hot, I'm melting. This is what she says all the time. I'm melting, Mama, I'm melting. And I was like, okay, like we're almost there. We were walking back and to the house, and I was like, right, we're almost there, we're almost there. And she's like, I just want to eat something cold. I just want something cold to eat. And I was like, what, like ice cream? Like I was thinking, what is this cold thing she wants to eat? And I was like ice cream? And she's like, yes. And at that exact moment, we heard an ice cream truck. I kid you not, we heard an ice cream truck that come along this main road. And I was like, Francis, look at how powerful you are. You have just manifested an ice cream truck. And it's 11 o'clock on I think it was like a Wednesday morning, maybe a Thursday morning. It was just so random, like this ice cream truck out in the morning. I don't know, but when I grew up, the ice cream trucks came out at night, and we called them an ice cream van. And we actually in Scotland called them the Tally, which stood for Italian because it was Italian ice cream. So we would call it the Tally van. And but here they call it an ice cream truck. And I'd never like seen one in the morning. They always come in the evening. And I was like, oh, look, there's an ice cream truck. And I was like, you've manifested this, you've created this. This is how powerful you are. And she's like, oh, happy with herself. And we were walking along, and the ice cream truck comes over, and I pointed into this like little cul-de-sac where the house is, and I pointed and I was like, can you go in there? Can you go in? And I'll go and get my purse and I'll buy some ice cream. And he pulls into the cul-de-sac, and I run in to get my purse. And I come back and she's standing there. She's already ordered. She's standing there with the biggest Mr. Whitby ice cream I've ever seen in my life. It was like the size of her head. And she knew it was huge. And it's in the morning. She's like to me, this is a medium. This is not a large. This is a medium. I just picked the middle one, and I was like, it's okay, it's fine. You're on your holidays. And it's just huge, huge big ice cream. And then later on, my friend said to me, the ice cream truck never comes down this street. That's so funny. Like I've never seen the ice cream truck on this street before. And I was like, because Frances manifested it. So she was really, really happy. So then yesterday, something very similar happened to me, and it was a huge revelation for me in the way that it happened, and that I was sitting on the sofa, and I actually said the thing that I desired out loud. Like I was in a conversation with my friend and she said something to me and I said this desire out loud. And within 15 minutes, I got the thing that I desired in front of me. It was right in front of me. And I didn't immediately realize that I'd got what I desired. But how I did realize it was I felt a lot of discomfort in my body. And I stood up from the sofa and I walked into the kitchen and I'm standing in the kitchen over the sink, rinsing a glass, and I could feel my body going like this. And I was like, what's going on? Why is my solar plexus vibrating? What is it? Why am I feeling scared? And then I just had this realization where I was like, you just got the exact thing that you asked for. And when you got it, you stood up and walked away because you were afraid. You were afraid you want this thing, you do want it, but you're also afraid of it. And it was a very little thing. I can't tell you what it was because it makes me sound a bit sad, as in a saddle. Like not as in like this, like as in a bit sad. And for me. And but I got it. I got it within 15 minutes of saying it out loud. And then I was in the kitchen and I'm washing up the dishes and I was like, I was busying myself. That's what I was doing. And I knew I was busying myself and I caught myself doing it. I was never so glad that I caught myself and I could feel my solar plexus vibrating. And I went back in and I sat down next to my friend and I said, I asked for that thing out loud and then I got the thing and I stood up and walked away from it because I was scared. And she was like, okay, great revelation. And I was like, yeah, this is really, really good. And then I I sat with the thing that I was given. I sat with my manifestation. I didn't run away from it. I just sat with it. I allowed the manifestation to come to me. And even although I did feel afraid while I was sitting there receiving, I also felt joyful and excitement and powerful. And so that's going to be the theme of next week's call is that everything you wish for with a truthful heart will instantly be made manifest. And the the follow on from it, what we're going to dive into is that you are always getting what you wish for with a truthful heart. And when it's made manifest in front of you, sometimes you don't like it. You don't like the thing that you're getting, but you have wished for it. You have wished for it with a truthful heart. If you don't like it, it's because something needs to be purified in your system, a stagnant emotion that you have repressed, either from childhood, from early adulthood, from your parents before you, from their parents before them. I use words like purification and cleansing and clearing because these are things that are clogged up within your system. They've been getting pushed down and pushed down and pushed down for decades, and the time has come to clear them. And the clearance comes through the desires that you have. God is really, really, really intelligent, right? There's no mistakes. God puts a desire in your heart that gives you an impulse in your body that feels really, really good, right? Nobody has a desire for things that are going to be hard and difficult. They have a desire for something that's going to be amazing, right? A desire to live in a different country. Okay, I'm going to give you that desire. And anything in your system that is not aligned with the person that has that desire is now going to come up to be purified. And guess what? That's going to feel like shit. It's going to feel like every emotion that you've ever repressed. It's going to feel challenging. It's going to feel hard, but it's going to get you to that desire. And when you have that desire, you're going to be a more evolved version of you while you have it so that you can keep it. And more importantly than not, and so super, super, super important this part, so that you can enjoy it when you've got it. So yesterday I got the desire. It was a very small desire, but I got it within 15 minutes of my heart desiring it and my vibration, my voice saying it out loud. And then I was too afraid to hold the desire in my hands. And I was like, oh, okay. And I got up and I start clearing out a glass instead. And then I come back and I'm like, no, 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 sit with the desire, sit with it now. Then that's an evolution for me. That's a revelation, as my friend said. It's an evolution. It's like I didn't just stay in the kitchen washing the glass. I came back in and I was like, no, be with the desire, be with the thing that you've asked for. And I sat in the space where I was receiving, and that's an evolution of my consciousness. So now I know that okay, I've asked for all these things, but if I'm too afraid to get the things that I'm asking for, then I'm not going to enjoy them when I get them. So it's better for me to purify everything in my system that's going to stop me from enjoying it, so that actually when I get it, because I say this all to my clients all the time, you'll get your desires in spite of yourself. You will have the thing that you desire, but if you're not vibrating at a frequency of that desire, you either won't keep it or you'll keep it in a state of fear and you won't enjoy it. I can't begin to tell you how many people I know that have something that they once desired and they're not enjoying it. It's like this used to be the thing, the very, very top of your tick list of all your desires. This was it. Then you got it, and then you decided you wanted something else, and that wasn't the thing that was going to fill the lack within yourself. But if you could just sit here and enjoy this thing that your heart desired, and then yeah, of course you're allowed to create more. You're allowed to evolve. It's not just you're allowed; it's that it's required of you for the evolution of the whole collective to desire more, to want more, to create more. But if you're constantly doing it from a state of lack, then the dopamine hit will get less and less over time. Everything that you get, you'll enjoy it less and less over time. So you have to be able to enjoy, like you have to be able to. Chris Williamson says, if you can't enjoy a coffee, you won't enjoy a yacht. I enjoy. I rarely drink as decaf. I hope it might not be, because it wasn't marked on it, so it might be normal coffee. We'll find out in about an hour. Um, I enjoy coffees, decaf coffees, because I don't have them very often. So when I have it, I'm with it and I enjoy it. I've never been on a yacht, but I'm sure the day that I do have a yacht or own my own yacht, that I will enjoy it because I enjoy sunsets and I was out in the garden of this Airbnb the other day hugging the tree because it looked like a really good tree to hug. And then the neighbour next door, it's in a really nice neighbourhood, must have just been like, what is this woman doing? And I was in my arms around the tree and I'm talking to it. And I was like, I like trees. I had this conversation with my client this week where it's like, I enjoy strawberries. I enjoy coffee. I enjoy watching kids play in a park. I enjoy my kids. I enjoy, in the same way that I enjoy physical intimacy, sex, orgasm, like I enjoy these physical feelings through my body. I get the same feeling from the sunset and from strawberries and from coffee because I've cleared enough of my system to be able to feel these things, which is why I want the people, all of you, everybody on this call, everybody in the whole world, to just clear what you're carrying inside of yourself, so that you can feel the feelings, so that when you achieve your heart's desires, and you will, so that you enjoy them, because that's the most important part. We are actually here to enjoy our lives. We're here for love, we're here for curiosity, we're here for enjoyment and joy and happiness and excitement for all the things. You know, my friend and I, we took Frances and her friend to the Lego store the other day, and we're all in the Lego store, like, we're all excited about Lego, and it was there. The two little kids are excited about it, low-key anxious of what one they were going to get and, you know, walking about, and but they're also excited, and we were excited along with them because it's like, right, join the children in their excitement. If you're so filled up with the stagnant emotions of your childhood, you can't have that enjoyment. You'll get glimpses of it, but they're very few and far between, and they're a very small percentage of your life. And don't believe anybody that says that's the way life's supposed to be. It's not. Life's not supposed to be just you trudging along in the hamster's wheel. It's supposed to be finding enjoyment in the little things and finding so much happiness and excitement. And you know, the football's on, and I don't watch football at all. I don't know anything about it. I've got three brothers and a sister that are all football fans. And but my friend who supports England, who's here with me in Toronto, she's there, that's her team. And so I was checking my phone to see if her team were winning and getting excited because her team won. Because I was like, well, I know that she's excited, so I'm excited for her. And to have that level of connection with your own body, first of all, that you've got this second-hand excitement for everyone else, and then to be able to feel it and feel the excitement is something that I never ever knew was possible. And I know that if you're sitting here watching this and you have never felt this, then you perhaps don't know what I'm talking about. But you could tell by the inflection of my voice, by the vibration of my voice, that it's good to be excited. It's good to feel that joy in your body. It's good to follow those impulses of what you get inside. And that's there for everybody. It's within every single person on this planet. And it's called God. And it's an energy that you carry within yourself. And if you give God all that troubles you, then what God will give you back is all that makes you joyful. And it's amazing. And you will hug trees and really, 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 really enjoy your coffee in a way that you were never able to before. And that's what I want for everybody in the call. So this week's theme was turning the corner by clearing the stagnant emotions and then following the instructions of chop wood and carry water. And next week's theme, which we already know, is going to be everything you wish for with a truthful heart will instantly be made manifest, and how sometimes that manifestation of those things that you wish for can cause discomfort in your body, and what to do and how to process that discomfort that you feel in your body. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. If you're on catch up, thank you for asking your question, and I will see you all next Wednesday. Have a great week. Bye.